welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to answer a question that I get all the time, and it's basically just how do I come up with a framework for my money? My clients come to me and they say, Rachel, I just don't know where to start. I don't know how to organize the money coming in, the money going out. I don't know if it should be invested, how it should be invested, what accounts should I be contributing to, all this kind of just minutia of what should my money be doing for me. And I like to use a super simple concept that we refer to as 3 buckets of money. And if you follow me and on Instagram or Twitter, or if you're not new here, you know I go by the Fit CFP. I used to be a personal trainer, and so I kind of tie fitness and finance together. With my clients, it seems to just help concepts like click, because let's be honest, fitness is a lot more fun to talk about than finance most of the time. So you'll see me refer to those types of analogies. And with this concept, I liken it to if you're working with a trainer, you're on your first meeting with them and you say, all right, get me into shape. Well, any good trainer is going to kind of throw that back at you and say, well, what do you want to get in shape for? What are your goals? Why do you want to change your body? Do you have an event coming up like a wedding? Are you trying to go into like competitive bodybuilding? Do you want to step on stage? Like, what are the goals? What's your end game? And because the program that they build for you is going to be a lot different if you're trying to get in shape for a wedding in 6 months versus if you want to be a figure competitor. 2 totally different programs, and depends on where you're starting at and all these different things. Well, the same applies to this question that I get, like, what should I do with my money? How do I invest it? How do I save it? It's the same thing. I'm going to ask you first to determine what are your goals. What is it that you want your money to do for you? What's a lifestyle you want? Do you have any big dreams? Do you want to start a business, a family, buy a home, move, travel? What is it that you want to do? And what's a timeline ideally associated with those various milestones? And that's where the 3 buckets comes in. So we have 1, 2, and 3 broken up into short-term, long-term, and short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. So bucket 1 is our short-term money. That's money that we're going to use for goals that are happening 3 years or less, that kind of time frame. And it's also the money that we want to set aside as your emergency reserves. If you are watching this and you don't yet have an emergency fund, that is takeaway number 1. Today, go open a money market or a high-yield savings account and start building your emergency reserves. You can start doing that as little as start putting $50 a week in it. I don't care. Just start putting that away. If you have more questions about that, let me know. We can chat. But that's going to be your bucket 1. It's stuff that we don't want to market because it's short term. We don't want it to have any volatility because it's not going to have time to recover. It's money we need liquid and be readily accessible. Bucket 2 is our midterm. We think of that as goals that it's happening in the next like 3 to 7 years. So for a lot of my clients, that's buying a home, maybe a job change, moving, could be a new car, starting a business, expanding a business, anything that's kind of coming up in the next few years. And then the amount of stock risk you should take on with those dollars really depends on your preference. What are you comfortable with? And where does it kind of fall in that time horizon? If it's something that's like just barely midterm, maybe 4 or 5 years out, you're probably not going to want more than 25% of those funds in the stock market. But if it's a little bit on the longer end, then maybe 40, 50, 60% could be in what we call a stock side, the equity side of the market, because it has a longer time horizon to ride out any volatility and recover from any potential losses that would happen during that time before you actually need to use those dollars. And then bucket 3, that's our long-term money. So that's everything else that's more than 7, 8 years out. Again, the amount of stock risk you can take on with that in those investments really depends on your preference and how far out in that timeline, because 10 years is way different than 30 years from now. So if you're a millennial like me, thinking about like retirement money when it's in my 401k, my Roth IRA, stuff that I'm not going to touch for 20 plus years. I am super aggressive. I'm not very risk averse when it comes to that. So that part of my portfolio is like 80% stocks, 20% bonds, even as aggressive as a 90-10. But it really depends on your preference and what you're comfortable with, and how that's going to support your goals. Because at the end of the day, if your money doesn't have this kind of framework or structure to it, then it's just a dollar sign and there's arbitrary numbers, right? So we want our money to give us a purpose, serve our lifestyle, and that's what this framework can help you implement. So hope that was helpful. Feel free to reach out. Love to chat with you more for any more in-depth questions, and stay tuned for more quick money tips.